I didn't understand what I was seeing at first. That's the truth. My brain rejected it, tried to smooth it over, label it as normal. The academy teaches you to do that. Normalize danger. Normalize cruelty. Normalize the idea that someone stronger than you gets to decide how much you're worth. Training Hall 9 smelled like overheated metal and recycled breath, the kind of air that sticks to your lungs. 50 of us were scattered around the floor, pretending not to watch as Bradhawk moved through the room like a natural disaster given legs. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. His bulk did the talking. 8 feet of plated muscle and confidence earned through years of no one stopping him. You don't challenge gravity. You step aside and hope it doesn't notice you falling. I was pretending to recalibrate a grav belt when I saw his attention lock onto the human girl. She was new. That much was obvious. Soft features. Unarmored posture. No visible implants. She stood near the edge of the sparring circle, reading from a wrist display like the room didn't exist. That was her mistake. Bradhawk hated being ignored. It was the one thing that made him feel small, and he couldn't tolerate that feeling. He closed the distance in 3 heavy steps. The noise level dropped instantly. Conversations died mid-word. Everyone felt it. Violence about to happen has a pressure to it like air before a storm. He said something to her. I didn't hear the words, but I heard the intent. Mockery. Ownership. The usual ritual. She didn't respond right away. When she did, she looked up calmly and told him she wasn't interested. Her voice didn't shake. It didn't rise. It just existed. That was wrong. Every instinct I had screamed that it was wrong. Prey reacts. Prey appeases. Prey runs. She did none of that. She stood there, hands relaxed, weight centered, eyes flat. Not brave. Not defiant. Bored. That's when the unease crawled into my gut. I remember thinking the instructor should step in. Someone should stop this. But nobody moved. Not me. Not the others. We were waiting for the confirmation of the order we understood. Big crushes small. Noise defeats silence. Bradhawk reached out and shoved her toward the circle. She stepped over the line without resistance, like someone clocking in for an unwanted shift. The instructor was on the far side of the hall, turning too late. I remember thinking the human girl was already lost. I remember being wrong. The circle lit up beneath her boots, a thin blue ring humming softly as it recognized 2 combatants. Bradhawk rolled his shoulders, savoring the moment. He loved audiences. Loved fear. He fed on the tension in the room like oxygen. Around us, students leaned in, pretending they weren't invested while silently choosing a side. Most chose Bradhawk. It was the safe bet. It always was. I felt that same ugly comfort settle in my chest. If he was still the apex, then the universe still made sense. Then I wasn't weak, just realistic. The human didn't take a stance the way we were taught. No raised guard. No flared posture. She stood loose, almost casual, eyes half-lidded like she was listening to distant music. Bradhawk mistook that for fear. He grinned, showing too many teeth, and lunged. The floor shook under his weight. He moved fast for something that large, a freight train wrapped in claws. I flinched, already imagining the sound of bones snapping. But it didn't happen. She wasn't where he aimed. She slipped sideways inside his reach, close enough that my breath caught. That was the last place anyone should stand. Instead of striking, she touched him. Just a light, open-handed contact against his chest plating. Bradhawk staggered. Not back but down. A sharp, humiliating wheeze burst from his throat as the air vanished from his lungs. The crowd gasped as one. I felt it ripple through us, confusion spreading faster than fear. He swung wildly, anger replacing confidence, but she flowed around him, a quiet current redirecting a crashing wave. She tapped his knee. He stumbled. She brushed his wrist. His claws twitched uselessly. Each movement was small, precise, devastating. No wasted effort. No flourish. It was like watching someone dismantle a machine they'd memorized blindfolded. Bradhawk roared, the sound cracking against the walls, and charged again. This time she stepped in. Into him. Her shoulder struck a nerve cluster at the base of his neck. He froze mid-motion, muscles locking, eyes wide with shock. The silence was absolute. Even the hum of the circle seemed louder. I realized my hands were shaking. Not from excitement. From dread. This wasn't a fight. It was a lesson being delivered at a level we weren't meant to see. He backed away, limping, pride bleeding out faster than anything physical. I expected him to stop. To concede. But fear does strange things to creatures used to dominance. His gaze flicked to the weapons rack. I saw the decision form before anyone else did. He reached. Fingers closed around a weighted training baton. The instructor shouted. Too far. Too late. The human's expression changed. The boredom vanished, replaced by something cold and final. The air felt sharp, electric. She moved before Bradhawk could raise the weapon. That was the moment I understood. He wasn't in danger before. He was now. She crossed the distance in a blink. One moment Bradhawk was lifting the baton, the next her hands were on his arm. 2 hands on one limb, leverage perfect, timing ruthless. There was a sharp crack as his wrist rotated past its limit and the weapon clattered uselessly across the floor. The sound punched the breath from my lungs. Bradhawk screamed, high and raw, nothing like the confident growls he'd used minutes before. The circle flared brighter, emergency protocol struggling to keep up with what was happening inside it. She didn't pause. Pauses are for hesitation and she had none. She stepped behind him as his knees buckled, her foot hooking the back of his leg with mechanical efficiency. He went down hard, the impact echoing through the hall. Before he could roll, before instinct could save him, she was already there. Her forearm pressed against his throat, cutting off sound, not air. Control, not murder. That distinction mattered to her. I could see it in the way she moved. Every strike was deliberate, measured, necessary. Bradhawk thrashed, strength finally useless against geometry and experience. She struck the side of his neck. His body went rigid. Another precise blow along his spine and his legs went slack, nerves screaming without permission from his brain. He wasn't fighting anymore. He was being processed. The word came to me unbidden, and it made bile rise in my throat. This was what happens when a threat exceeds acceptable limits. This was containment. The instructor reached the edge of the circle, shouting orders, but the words blurred together. Security alarms wailed. Red lights strobed across the hall, painting the scene in fragments. None of it mattered. She was finishing her work. Bradhawk managed a wet, broken sound that might have been a plea. She responded by shifting her grip, exposing the joint of his shoulder and pulling. The noise that followed wasn't loud. It was intimate. A thick, final pop that vibrated through my teeth. That was when someone screamed. I realized it was me. She released him and stood. Just stood. Bradhawk lay twisted on the mat, sobbing, one arm bent wrong, legs unmoving. The most feared presence in Training Hall 9 reduced to a broken shape leaking pride and pain. She looked down at him without satisfaction. Without hatred. As if he were an equation she'd already solved and discarded. Armed guards flooded in, weapons raised, voices sharp with fear they couldn't hide. She turned to them slowly, hands visible but relaxed. He escalated, she said calmly. I neutralized the threat. Her voice didn't waver. The circle powered down, blue light fading like an ending breath. No one argued. No one could. We all felt it then, the shift. Something fundamental had cracked, and it wasn't just Bradhawk. It was the lie we'd been living with. They took her away first. 2 guards flanking her, stun rifles ready, fingers tight on the triggers. She didn't resist. Didn't argue. She walked with the same unhurried pace she'd had entering the circle, like this was just another procedural step she'd expected all along. Bradhawk was loaded onto a med frame afterward, wrapped in restraints he'd once laughed at. His eyes were unfocused, body twitching in small, helpless spasms. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt hollow. Training Hall 9 stayed closed for the rest of the cycle, the blue mat scrubbed clean, the blood and fluids erased. But the memory clung to us. You can't disinfect understanding. The rumors started before the alarms finished resetting. Some said she cheated. Others said humans had hidden implants, illegal mods. That was easier than accepting the truth. The instructor finally addressed us hours later, face drawn tight. No punishments were announced. No charges filed. Bradhawk had violated escalation protocols by introducing a weapon. The human had responded within acceptable force parameters. Case closed. That should have been comforting. It wasn't. The truth leaked out anyway. Quietly. Always quietly. She wasn't a cadet in the traditional sense. She was already active service. Human special operations. A combat specialist with deployments older than some of our lifespans. She was at the Academy for Command Certification, a bureaucratic hurdle between her and higher authority. She hadn't refused Bradhawk because she was afraid. She'd refused because she understood exactly what would happen if she engaged. She knew what she was capable of. And she tried in her own way to prevent it. Bradhawk survived. Barely. He walks with assistance now when he walks at all. The medics say his nervous system will never fully recover. The Academy reassigned him. No more sparring. No more dominance. Shame settled on him like gravity. I wonder if he understands yet. Not what she did to him but what she spared him from. She could have killed him in seconds. She chose not to. That restraint was the most frightening part. The human returned to the halls weeks later, alone, unescorted. When she passed, conversation stopped. Not because of fear exactly but recognition. We moved aside. Not quickly. Not dramatically. We made space. Predators do not announce themselves. They endure. They observe. They decide. I think about that day often. About how close we all came to learning the lesson the hard way. The universe isn't divided into strong and weak. It's divided into those who need to prove it and those who already know. I still hear that sound sometimes late in the dark. Not the break. The moment before. The silence.